Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. There's a very important interview of Floyd Mayweather that's online right now. It's a new interview, and it was done by the website fighthype.com. I've linked the website to the article to my site, DwyerBoxingNews.com. Right? It's one of the better, more revealing interviews of any fighter in the last year or so. In the video, Floyd Mayweather argues that he has the right to cherry pick opponents because he has the track record. Right? He has, as he puts it, earned his stripes. So, according to him, no one, and that includes 22-year-old Saul Alvarez, has the right to give him ultimatums. Floyd also points out that were he to fight Canelo, he would be the one paying Canelo, because he, of course, is the one with the Showtime and CBS contracts. Now, Floyd is right financially. This is prize fighting. Older fighters who have proven themselves can fight whoever they want, if those fights, of course, are financially profitable. In other words, there's crowd interest. But Floyd, I believe, is missing the bigger picture. Right? Ray Leonard in the late 80s earned his stripes and could have fought whoever he wanted. And he ended up in the ring with Marvin Hagler. Right? It was an epic fight. It was Hagler's farewell fight. And Ray Leonard made sure that he fought his nemesis. Financially, yes. Floyd has enough money where he can fight whoever he wants. He can even decide not to fight. Right? If the titles don't matter, he can get stripped of his titles. Legacy-wise, quite frankly, if he wants to be considered the best of this era, he's going to have to fight other elite fighters, right? And when a fighter like Saul Alvarez makes it known that he wants to fight Floyd Mayweather, I believe Floyd has to take that seriously. In an earlier video, I named 6 guys that I'd like to see Floyd fight. And they include the winner of the Canelo-Trout match. Understand, the ultimatums aren't coming from the fighters. Right? In a sense, the ultimatums are really coming from history. Right? So Floyd really needs to think about what he wants. If it's money, he can fight Tom, Dick, and Harry. He can go down to the local gas station and just fight anyone who will draw a crowd, right? Who will satisfy the media outlets that are paying him, right? But if it's legacy, then quite frankly, history is giving him the ultimatum. He's going to have to continue to fight the best of his era if he wants to be considered the best of his era, right? And so in my opinion, whether Timothy Bradley calls him out or not, whether Sergio Martinez calls him out or not, whether the winner of Austin Trout, Saul Alvarez, calls him out or not, whether the winner of Devin Alexander, Cal Brook, calls him out or not, whether Lucas Mathis calls him out or not. You know, Floyd really has an obligation to take some of those fights. If he just wants to be someone resting on past glory, go ahead and fight whoever you want. But if you want to be relevant today and current, then you need to fight the best today, right? Saul Alvarez, by the way, is trying to make his case by fighting worthy opponents like Austin Trout, right? I have no problem with a young lion calling out an old lion ahead of a big career-defining fight and saying, hey, if I win this, I want you. Let's talk about other news. In the piece, Floyd Mayweather tries to compare Adrien Broner to Andre Ward. And he makes the claim that Adrien Broner is more known. Okay, great. If we're talking about a popularity contest, a beauty pageant, whatever. If we're talking about boxing, then any comparison between Adrien Broner and Andre Ward is far off the mark. Let's remember their last fights. Adrien Broner fought Gavin Reese. Andre Ward fought reigning light heavyweight champion Chad Dawson. In fact, Ward has also fought in his career Carl Froch and Mikkel Kessler. That's a mega fight that's going to take place shortly in Europe. It's big. Andre Ward has fought both guys and has already beaten both guys. He's also beaten Arthur Abraham, who currently holds one of the belts, right? Well, Adrien Broner hasn't fought any trio remotely approaching the quality of competition that Andre Ward has faced, right? So my point to you is simply this. If we're talking about a beauty pageant or some other dynamic, okay, great. You can mention Adrien Broner's name in the same sentence with Andre Ward. But if we're talking about boxing, Adrien Broner does not belong in the same paragraph with Andre Ward. Broner has promised, okay, great, when Broner graduates from fighting the Jason Litzows of the world, right, and is able to do better than a narrow victory over Daniel Ponce de Leon, then we can revisit it. But right now, it's an insult to an Andre Ward to mention some young, unproven guy like Adrien Broner, right? Broner, by the way, just food for thought, apparently realized that the water was getting deep around 140, right? He apparently realized that Richard Abril would have given him problems, that Miguel Vasquez at 135 would give him problems. So Adrien Broner instead is jumping to 147 to fight Paulie Malignaggi, right? All I can say is, let's just say conservatively, Andre Ward has done far more in his boxing career than has Adrien Broner. I understand that Floyd is friends with Broner. Both of them are Al Haymon fighters. Good for them, right? If we're talking about non-boxing related stuff, okay, great. We'll hear whatever comparison we want. But again, if we're talking about boxing, let's give Andre Ward a lot more respect than this. He deserves a lot better. I'm assuming Floyd would never dare compare Adrien Broner to Bernard Hopkins. He shouldn't compare Adrien Broner to Andre Ward. Let's talk about other news. You heard me mention Carl Froch earlier. Well, George Groves now has switched promoters. And George Groves, like many young guys, wants to fight quality older guys, right? Groves wants to prove himself. So Groves has been calling out Carl Froch. Understand, this is a boxing tradition, right? Canelo calling out Floyd, Groves calling out Carl Froch. This is what young lions do, right? They want to legitimate their kingdom. They want to show the world what they believe they've shown themselves, right? Well, Carl Froch has said in an interview that George Groves is going to have to prove his stripes against other competition before getting in the ring with him, right? Now, let me just say this. I said this online at least 18 months ago. Let me say it now. In my opinion, George Groves has already beaten a fighter, James DeGale, who I believe would beat Carl Froch today, right? A Froch versus George Groves match is credible today and would sell out Nottingham and several other venues, right? So the idea that George Groves hasn't been in the ring with serious competition, I think is ridiculous. Let me just say too, if Carl really wants to take on the toughest opponent in his weight class in Europe right now, it wouldn't be Mikkel Kessler. I believe it would be James DeGale, right? I'm rolling with DeGale. I'm on the DeGale bandwagon. The day that fight's announced, I could well be here online giving the reasons why I feel James DeGale wins that fight. Finally, let's talk about former lightweight champion Juan Diaz. He's announced he's coming back after a 2.5-year layoff, right? No doubt he's seen other older fighters like Juan Manuel Marquez, who beat Diaz, by the way, right? He's seen Juan Manuel Marquez and other fighters, perhaps Bernard Hopkins, continue on, right? Have long careers. But let me say this. I expect it to end badly for Juan Diaz. Juan Diaz is a volume guy. He's not a technician. He got by throwing hundreds of punches in fights and by having the kind of aggression, leveraging the aggression and activity that a young man has. He's not a technician. The guys who are able to go on in the sport literally are getting by not on volume but on angles and timing, right, and technique. That's who Juan Manuel Marquez is. Marquez was never a guy who came in and just tried to overwhelm you with volume, right? What volume fighters end up finding out is that when they get older, they're volume dips. And without that extra volume, they're vulnerable. So let me just say, before Juan Diaz gets deep into his return, I'm expecting this to end badly for him, right? He doesn't have the punch. Power's the last to go. He doesn't have that George Foreman type punch where he can enter a ring, have a younger guy outmaneuver him, land a couple of punches and win by knockout, right? He doesn't have the punch. Nor does he have the technique and savviness of a Marquez or a Hopkins to be able to conserve energy, be defensive, pick his spots, right? Outthink the opponent. So this is one return that I'm a skeptic on. Juan Diaz is a great guy. In his heyday, he was one of my favorite fighters. I'm cringing at the thought of him returning to the sport. I'm expecting some young lion, maybe a George Groves type or a Canelo type, to take him apart. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for us here online. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com and at DwyerBoxingNews.com. I hope you give that Floyd Mayweather interview on FightHype.com, an excellent site, a look. Thanks for stopping by.